Hello and welcome to the WCI Terminology Server in 5 minutes Postman tutorial. This project is available on GitHub and publicly accessible. To get to the Postman tutorial, scroll down on the main project and click for Postman examples. Here, the video you're watching is available from this link at the top of the page. In order to use Postman, we're going to have to download this Postman collection. So let's do that. This will take you to GitHub. You can click on raw. And then we can save as and save this file. Then we can take this file and load it here into Postman. I've got a fresh collection open. Drag this into here and import it. Okay, that gets our Postman set up. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is authentication. So there's a couple of reference terminology server deployments available that can be used. There's wci.terminology.tools and snowmed.terminology.tools. For the WCI one, you can request a 30-day token from info@westcoastinformatics.com that can be used, and that is what we will demo today. You can also test many of these examples against snowmed.terminology.tools where no authentication is required. However, only SNOMED is loaded into that environment. This next set of instructions is really for a local installation that uses username and password authentication, which we're not going to cover today. And everything else about this tutorial is really in the Postman collection itself. So we're going to go take a look at that. If you request a 30-day token from info@westcoastinformatics.com, you'll get an email like this one that contains your token. And then we're going to go show how to set this up in the collection. So we'll come back to Postman over here, open this collection, and then here we'll go to edit on the collection itself and go to the authorization page. What we want to use here is a bearer token, and we'll just paste our token in. And that is essentially ready to proceed with making calls. So we have 6 examples of things that we can show here. Before we go on, many of these examples make use of variables. So in particular, they specify an API URL that is currently set to wci.terminology.tools. If you wanted to test this collection against another deployment, you would want to change this to point to the URL of what it was you wanted to test against. And you'll see that here in the terminologies call, we have, here, let's close some of these other ones. We have just a simple API URL terminology call, and we click send. This is an authenticated call, so it sends the tokens in the background. And then here in the results, you can see that we get back essentially a list of the installed terminologies with some information. Each JSON payload, each element of this JSON array that comes back represents a terminology with its name and abbreviation and version, and then some other information about metadata about that terminology. The second example is looking up a concept by code. So if we come here, you'll see that we're performing a search for SNOMED CT and a particular code. And this is essentially going to do a basic lookup of this code in the terminology server. So here we get our response back. It's heart structure concept in SNOMED. And then this atoms array contains all the different names. So we've got heart NOS, heart structure, heart, and so on. These are all the names of this concept in SNOMED itself. And then at the bottom, we've got a few top-level concept attributes and the semantic type information. So this is a basic model, simple lookup of concept level information that includes the top-level concept stuff plus a few other details. The next example here is to look up the relationships for a concept by code. And this example uses the same code. So what we're going to do is essentially look up the related concepts of heart structure. So send this call in, and we get back 4 relationships in an array. Each one of these is all the information, including what it's pointing at, what kind of relationship it is, and so on. So here from this first one, you can see this is indicating that structure of thoracic viscus, that our concept is a child of, it is a structure of thoracic viscus. So the 2 concept in this case is a parent concept. So that's, and then there's a few other kinds of relationships here as well. That's a basic call to get the relationships for a code. Next example performs a text search. In this case, we're querying the search string melanoma, and we're requesting a limit of 5 results back and choosing a min resolver, which is a resolve that returns the kind of minimum amount of information. So this is a mechanism that lets you produce varying levels of detail in the response to a call like this. So we'll perform the search, and it comes back with 5 results out of a total of 448. And these are in search result rank order. So you can see the top 2 are the disorder and morphologic abnormality concepts for malignant melanoma in SNOMED, which is what we would expect. The next query shows, or the next example shows that you can actually query by search term and an expression. So here we're going to query melanoma, but only for descendants of this code, which is the code in SNOMED for the diseases or disorder concepts. If we send this through, you'll see that the search results are much fewer, only 180, and our top 5 here only include disorder concepts in SNOMED. So that's just a way of showing that we can support ECL constraints alongside with search queries and other parameters when looking up content. And then the final example is to obtain a subtree. So what this call does is take a particular code and a terminology. In this case, we're going to look at ICD-10 instead of SNOMED. And it's going to look up the subtree starting at this concept and up to a max level of 3 down into the tree. So here you'll see that the response is a payload representing the top level information at our code M01, and then showing that it has child concepts that include M01.x, which then has child concepts that include M01.x0. Here, X1 has another child because we're going 3 levels deep. That's M01.x11. And then we kind of stop here because this is the 3rd level that we want to go down. And then looking through, you can see this kind of pop back out as we go back up the tree. And so this is essentially a rendering of the entire subtree under this code M01. So this has been just a quick presentation of 6 kind of calls that you can make from the perspective of a Postman collection. Thank you for listening.